Good morning, I'm Madalaine Pugliese, and I'm really excited that you chose to get up early this morning and come to this session. You have a little pile of handouts I'm going to be referring to a little bit this morning. I'm kind of a slave to this spot over here, I'm sorry to say, no jumping jacks or anything. Just a couple housekeeping things. You have a yellow session evaluation form. I'm going to put up the session number at the back. If you don't have one, just give a wave, and Allison will come and grab you. And then there is a camera rolling. I am being taped, you are not. I'm being recorded, you are not. So no worried about the frizzy hair day or anything like that, which we all have big hair when we come to Florida. I don't know, what do you do to us here? So this session is Make the APPsolute Fit, app in capital letters. And it's based on a framework that I developed a number of years ago called Stages. Just a quick show of hands of people who have even a little heard about it. Excellent, more than half of you, that's outstanding. So not a very great projector, but this is the process, the Stages process. It started with a book, which is at about 11 o'clock on the wheel there, which is where all of my research is, and I'm going to give you some bullet points of the research, but essentially took the child development milestones that Piaget gave us, typically developing cognitive milestones. But the kids that I work with are often below those milestones. Anybody live there with me? Yeah. So I looked for another set of milestones that were anchored and believed in by lots of people, and I found Chomsky's milestones in language development. And when you put language development and cognitive development together, that's what Stages really is. That was in the first book. We created some assessment software. That is not my topic today, but if anybody would like to come and see the assessment software, I will be in the Cambium exhibit this afternoon starting at 2 o'clock, and I'd be happy to walk you through what the assessment software does. It helps you generate data, collect data on kids who can't hold a pencil or speak. They generate their own data while playing these games in the background. Originally, my mission, what good is diagnostic without a prescriptive plan, right? Originally, my mission was to help people find software, and that would be directly correlated with the data that was captured. And in our world these days, that's called evidence-based practice. Who's heard that terminology before? Yeah. Yeah, this is a competency-based test, not a norm reference test, no grade levels, anything like that, which I'll be talking you through some of those milestones in a minute. Then the idea is once you pick your curriculum software, you keep going back to the book, look for your teaching strategies, and there's a report wizard that would let you generate reports and graph your results. So this is the Stages software. These are the curriculum titles that my publisher also offers, and I really feel compelled to tell you just a word or two about them because I just love being connected to the Cambium company, learning technologies company, and they make Classroom Suite. I will show you a website in a minute that aligns the Stages with the templates in Classroom Suite, which gives you a direct correlation for creating curriculum practice. I've also written my own curriculum title called Number Sense, and that one is indicated here. And then also Cambium publishes the Kurzweil software. And stagesassessment.com is where you would go to get lots of handouts in that Classroom Suite alignment and so forth, which I'll take you to in a minute. So these days, what's happening with our interest in software compared to mobile device apps? Whether you're an iOS user or an Android user, that seems to be a lot of the direction we're taking in making some curriculum decisions these days. When I get to the wiki where that I've made that gives you all the recommendations, that's why you don't have a big paper handout. What good is that? It doesn't take you anywhere. I've made it all digital so you can just go straight to the App Store. These days, it seems to me, if you look in the program and if you look on the exhibit floor in the last year or so, this has been a trend. So true to the Stage's philosophy, just as before, diagnostic prescriptive now means include apps recommendations. And let me tell you, I don't believe we should make these recommendations any less carefully than we would if we were picking out software. I know about the 4-letter F word that turns everybody on free, right? That's not the focus. I'm not going to give you a list of free apps. I'm going to give you a list of purposefully selected apps that align with the Stage's framework anchored in research. I have a video of a kid that you would never expect to be able to use using an iPad. I'm not going to show it now because I have too many apps that I want to show you. So, and I think you've probably seen other videos of kids using apps right here at this conference. So if there's time, I'll go back and show that video, but I'm not going to show it right off the bat because it eats up too much app time. And I think that's why you came. So on your yellow sheet, or whatever you're making notes on, here's how you can reach me. And this is the session number for your yellow sheet, and I'm not going to probably come back to these slides anymore because I want to switch over to my iPad in a minute. All good, everybody? And it's make the APPsolute fit, and that's my name and email address. All good? Too quick? Excellent. I'm going to start here. This is the stagesassessment.com website. And when you go here, there are a number of resources down the side. Here is where you can go for my software recommendations. If you click there, you get each of the stages that you can click on and then go to see what third-party software I recommend for working with students at that stage. If you click here, the Stage's skills checklist, you get a grid, and you're holding that grid in your hand. So I'm going to ask you to take a look at that in a minute with me. There are lots of other resources here. Here's the classroom suite alignment that I mentioned a little while ago with which templates to use at which stage. Also on that handout, we put lots about the accessibility of each template so you could really think about how you're going to modify or make accommodations for a student who might need a device or some sort of extra added attraction for access to their curriculum. So lots of good resources on that website. But this is really why you came today. This is the wiki that you have a handout for. It's just a single page, and it looks like this row of icons on the top. It's the address for this wiki. In fact, it's actually the first page of this wiki. And it has a lot to do with my being really worried about us taking our field a little bit backwards because of mobile devices. Maybe a little more than a year ago, I got pretty scared. We lost the SET framework. We lost assessment protocols. We lost thinking about student need and task first. We were making decisions because our budgets were reduced. This new device costs $500 or less, whichever environment you're in. And on top of that, we were getting free content. So we started making decisions based on money or budget, not on the need of the student. And that really started to bother me. So I decided to start to make more deliberate apps recommendations similar to the way that I did for the software recommendations that are already posted. And how to keep it dynamic, I chose a wiki because I can keep those recommendations up frequently. As a matter of fact, I've been changing it while I've been here, looking at apps and seeing more and hearing more about things people can find. Anybody feel comfortable that you have a handle you can wrap your head around the iTunes store? You know everything that's in there. You know how to navigate. You know how to find things. And then when you get the reviews, you're really sure that's the one you need? Right, not really. So one thing I didn't say about myself, I'm really proud to be the Stage's author, but I also am very proud to direct one of our country's few graduate degree programs in assistive technology. It's in Boston at Simmons College. And that means I have slave labor graduate students who can help me with these recommendations because they get points in their classes for helping me with these reviews. So that's one way I can stay on top of it, because it's not just me by myself. And in fact, there are lots of people who've been joining the wiki who have also been sending me recommendations. Oh, you have to look at this one. And so it's really been a dynamic and kind of a very ginger process in keeping up the wiki. And it's just 6 months old, I guess. So it's pretty exciting to me to see this kind of interest in it. In fact, I have been getting email from all over the world. Last week, I got an email from a woman in Malaysia, a parent of a child with Down syndrome, who thanked me for this framework and for help in finding apps for her child. So I think we're on to something here, and I really welcome your feedback on the evaluation form and also in an email or any other way, and any recommendations that you have. So what I'm going to do right now, because I have a little bit of a technical glitch here, somehow my request for switching between my Mac and my iPad never got to the tech people here. So I literally have to move the wire, and I was going to go through all 7 of these stages back and forth between the wiki and my iPad. I can't do that. I'm afraid to move the wire 8 times because I'm afraid something will go wrong, and I only want to move it once. So here's where this handout comes in. Let me take you to what the handout looks like. It looks like this. Everybody has that, 2-sided? Yeah? So this is the way to follow along with where I am when I'm talking about which skills we're addressing on the wiki. And rather than going back and forth between the wiki and my iPad 7 times, I'm going to keep referring you to this. Stages 1 through 3 talks to language development, the Chomsky milestones that I mentioned to you earlier. Do you work with kids who need to turn attention toward you when you call their name? Yes. So that would be an early stage, higher up on the chart, a stage 1 skill. Look where making choices is. Do you ever put 2 choices out in front of a learner and don't get a response? Or you get a response like this where you know they're just picking any old thing and not being purposeful about it? Yeah. So this is the way you get from point A to point B. You go deliberately through this very sequenced set of skills. How do you train to those? Well, that's how we're going to look at the apps. Does that make sense? So on the whole first side, that's stages 1 through 3. Those are the Chomsky-aligned language milestones, language development milestones. When you flip the page over, we're not in a sequence anymore. We are now curriculum aligned. But within each curriculum area, we are then sequenced in developmental order. This is the Piaget side. And it also aligns with Common Core Standards, National Council of Teachers of Math, balanced reading research, all of those things that we've been hearing about in our field for a very long time. But these are the observable, measurable behaviors. Who's heard that language before? Ever written an IEP? Right. So, but they're then organized in curriculum areas, and you can see which stage I would look for that particular skill on as you're reading across the grid. Does that make sense to everybody? Because I'm not going to be able to go back and forth to my content slides. I want you to use this handout as I'm showing you apps. All good? Excellent. That worked. Nothing like finding out your technology isn't what you thought it was going to be like 5 minutes before it starts, right? So, wrong. I should stand down and do this. This is the wiki. It is a work in progress. If anybody keeps a wiki, anybody keep a wiki? And you know what I mean? It's the never-ending story. You never really feel like it's done, and it's not done. There are some areas that are under construction still. But what I want to do is take you through the 7 stages very quickly and show you how it aligns with that handout that's the grid I just showed you. And then I'm going to switch over to the iPad and show you as many apps as I can until they pull out the hook. Good? All right. So for stage 1, and I also wanted to show you the architecture of the wiki too. Slowest internet in the world. Have you guys tried it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we may be stuck. Yay. Each of the stages works exactly the same way. What you will see when you get to each page in the wiki is a little bit of the research and bullet points about that learner at that stage, what you're working on, what you're working toward, and then what features to consider in the app when you're going to choose an app for that learner at that stage. Make sense, everybody? All good? So this is the structure that I think has been grabbing people, that it is a more purposeful way of looking at a learner, knowing exactly what it is I'm trying to look for in the skill I'm practicing, and then what features to look for in an app, so I'm not swayed by, oh, this is free, I'll try it. And here's my reason why. What do we do emotionally for kids? What do we do with their self-esteem and their confidence as learners when we pick an app just because it's free and not a purposeful choice? That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid we are not only taking ourselves backwards, but our kids backwards too. When we pick an app that just somebody says, this is great, try it. No, let's try it because it fits the needs of the learner, not because somebody says it's great or it's free. So at stage 1, we are looking for what we call typically cause and effect, but there's an evolution of cause and effect. It just doesn't happen overnight. And in fact, I think Stages has redefined cause and effect in a sense because I pulled all the language out. The language isn't there yet for a stage 1 learner. They're not ready yet for hearing, press the switch and make the cow move across the table. What's a cow? What's a cross? That kind of language could stop a stage 1 learner and they won't go further because they don't understand what you mean. So at stage 1, we are coaching a behavior. We are looking for a way that the student can take control of this iPad and understand what the gesture set is and understand how to purposefully use it. And we want to find software or apps that have accessibility settings. They're starting to come. We want to find apps that give us both auditory and visual and ways to separate those out in case we're trying to figure out the sensory strengths in a student at stage 1. At stage 1, we're guessing, and stage 1 activities should help us learn exactly how to get in and reliably work with that learner. So if you're looking on your chart, you can see all the behaviors that work on stage 1. Keep that handy because I'm not going to be able to come back to the wiki once I leave the computer. It's stage 2. Yay. It loaded a little faster. Now we're going to move to the receptive vocabulary. Once we've established a reliable behavior, we're going to put the language back. The language we took out at stage 1, we're putting back in now. This is the cow. This is walk. We're teaching those words. We're letting kids are sort of like a sponge at stage 2. They're taking in language. They're taking in concepts. Over top of that same reliable behavior now, it's not just about the music and the animation. Now it's about the words. What are they? What do they mean? What is this? So we want to find apps that label things, that tell them the names of words, that tell them the names of actions, that describe things, so they can start to take in all that vocabulary. When I scroll down on the page, what you see is some of my students' work. And this was a very structured event that it was actually lots of fun. We had a big potluck lunch, everybody cooked, we all brought out our iPads. I have a collection myself, but everybody brought their own all loaded up. And we started to try to find apps that would meet that research criteria. And I had them fill in a little grid that told the name of the app, and we made them live links straight out to the iTunes store. So when you see an app title on the wiki, if it looks like something you want to pursue, just click right on the blue letters and you'll go straight to the store and straight to that app. So you don't have to worry about typing anything in. We did all of that already. And then, you know, the minute you put something up in a wiki or even something in print, guess what happens? The price changes, something changes. So just yesterday I got an email from one of the publishers who's listed in here who said, the price of my app has changed. Well, within 30 seconds I changed the wiki. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for you guys to contribute to. So join and help, and let's make this a nice collective list that's very purposeful, that people can really defend their choices based on these observation criteria. So what was important to me was the first column and the last column. I don't care who the publisher is, and I don't care how much it costs. I want to make sure that the app and the reason you picked it matches the research within the framework. Are we all good? Thumbs up? Yeah, okay. So that is stage 2. At stage 3, we're on the bottom part of your first side of your handout now. We are now looking at a learner who can make choices. So we've established a reliable behavior. We have put language development over top of that. And now we're going to find out whether any of that work is getting us anywhere. Now he's going to find the dog. He's going to find the cow. He's going to show us which one is run, which one is jump. He may not be able to physically do it, but within the app, we want him to show us that he understands those concepts. So I'm not a speech-language pathologist, but in my next lifetime, I hope to be Marcy Kaplan. I just think she's awesome. Or Phil. You know, the idea of understanding how language works is just an amazing thing in the population that we're talking about. So we have to very deliberately use language and make sure that they stay with us as we're growing across this whole spectrum of developmentally sequenced skills on that whole first side. So in this case now we are going to make choices. We are going to have a kid who looks at the 2 choices you put out for him and deliberately choose one. We also are going to be working with apps that we need to customize. Suppose you've been working on animals and the app only offers transportation objects to find. If there's not an extra add-on for that app, it may not be the right app for that learner just because of the vocabulary that you're working on. So we have to make sure that if we are going to add on an in-app purchase or something like that, in-store purchase, something like that, that we want to find the apps that will let us do that. And again, as I scroll down the list, look at all that information you can get. This is not a review. This is features. This is all about a feature match with what does your child need to do? What are the features he needs? And does that app offer those features? All good? Is this what you like? Yes? Okay. Yes?
I just have to add a comment because so many times people will post reviews for these resources, and again, that's based on their clinical opinion or non-clinical opinion, and this is factual information, and this contribution is wonderful. I just have to put that out there. It's just so nice to see someone that I could read through a description and know that it's not common because you're trying to sell that. It's true clinical ties to information.
Yeah.
And that's why I came today.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment very much. It's a muddy time in recommendations and in figuring out how to deploy and implement. It's just a crazy time. And some of the app review websites are definitely tied to here's a free code, which I won't do. I've bought plenty of these myself because I think it's important to not have that sort of connection. Not that I don't take a free code now and then, we all do, but that's not the point of how we pick these to review. We pick them to review because myself or some of my graduate students said, you have got to see this one. And aren't we all getting by like that? There's no way anybody can know all of this. It used to be that you could walk out on the exhibit floor and know all the things you were going to see, maybe new versions. It's just not that way anymore. So we have to depend on each other to find good things and connect them to kids and connect them to appropriate developmental next steps. So this is really a learning framework. Turn the page. We're on stage 4 now. This is typical readiness. Colors, shapes, letters, numbers. We have to keep in mind, though, that we may have kids who are not readiness chronologically. I just worked with a 21-year-old who was very excited about the letters. So we have to think about, how long has that 21-year-old been working in Millie and Bailey? Millie's Math House, Bailey's Book House. It's on our hard drive, so we use it, right? We need to change it up. We need to give them a more age-appropriate, nice smile on your face, age-appropriate and more interesting and more dynamic way of continuing to practice those skills that they're not generalizing all these years. So in thinking about features to consider, not just curriculum content, but also the appropriateness of the graphics, the way it's designed so that it's not threatening. When you are starting to make the journey into the other side of the page, the academic side of the page, guess what happens? We get scared. My brother has a spelling test hanging up on the refrigerator. I am now expected to look at letters too. Uh-oh, what if I can't do it? So I want you to look for apps that are very encouraging, tell the answer when they get it wrong, take an opportunity to learn, and not say try again, because that's meaningless in a child who's working in these skills for a number of years. And it could take a number of years. Stages kids make tiny little incremental changes over a very long period of time. So you really have to think about changing it up when you're working on the same skill set 2 years later. I'm not going to do this each time and show you all these amazing features that my graduate students have put together. You know it's here and you have the address for the wiki. I want to get to the apps. Please stop me if I'm going too fast through the framework. I just want to make sure you know how to use your handout when I'm showing you apps. Stage 5 is really what we're calling Common Core Standards now, which really gets me excited. At least we have some common knowledge in what it is that we're teaching and what we mean when we talk about our curriculum. So we have learners who are more dynamic about the way they use language. Let me go back to stage 4 for a minute. We start to get kids in the who've gone through the first 3 stages of language, trying it on for size at stage 4. You might get some simple sentences that aren't really sentences, like me cookie. Well, that's a pretty good sentence for a kid who is just emerging in language, but there's no verb. There's a pronoun and a noun. There's not really grammatically correct sentence structure. And you might see something like, mommy me cookie. Well, there's still no verb in there. So now at stage 5, you're going to get complete sentences, and you might get complex sentences. So if you're using communication devices with kids, or if you're looking at communication apps with kids, don't use them dynamically. That means don't change screens until stage 5. You can put 2 choices on a screen at stage 3. Up until stage 3, only 1 target on a screen. At stage 3, you can put more than 1 target on a screen, but don't change screens. Don't be dynamic. Are we good? Yeah? At stage 5, and stage 4 and stage 5, you can start to use more dynamic constructs in your communication apps. That's not my topic today, but I couldn't help myself. And then for the features to consider at stage 5, it's really important that we facilitate some learner independence now. We have a kid who's in the full standards now. We want to expect the best. We want to assume that we're going to get the most applied learning behaviors because we have built very carefully to get to this stage. We know he has the language, we know he has the behavior, now we expect him to perform within the standards. So in the apps recommendations, you're going to see lots of ways, apps that we talk about quizzes, we talk about ways to change settings, we talk about ways to customize content so that if he's not borrowing or carrying yet in math, then you can find an app that will let you customize which number set he's working on. And those are the kinds of things we look for when we look for stage 5 apps. Stage 6 is sort of an academic detour from stage 5. Stage 6 is, come on, stage 6 is what we call functional or life skills curriculum. How many work in that? Yep, that area. So at stage 6, we want something that really talks about personal independence that's community connected. And the reason I call it an academic detour is because we are still working on academics, but they're academics that are more pragmatic, like telling time, or handling money, or recognizing the signs within my community so that I'm safe out there crossing the street, not walking into the wrong restroom, those kinds of things. So at stage 6, we are really working on real world content, and we have to look for appropriate graphics. That's one of the things I love about mobile devices is that there's a lot of real photographs and real video available to us in an app. And I would steer away from some of the drawings and look very carefully for more realistic, community-connected images for this population. Is time and money something you would work on in the standard curriculum? Absolutely. When would you start working with that? Grade 1, grade 2, right? Oh, the o'clocks in kindergarten, really. But yet we have a 17-year-old or up who's still working on those same skills. That's what stage 6 is all about. Being respectful of a learner who's a little older, who's still working in the standards. How can we give them curriculum practice that's meaningful and applied? Not just in isolation, how much money is this? So that's where we want to look in stage 6. In stage 7, this is where I put writing. There's a lot of research at the top of each that I'm not really giving you the details of. You can go back and look. But a stage 7 learner starts working on writing really in conjunction with stage 4. If you think about readiness, don't we have kids not just recognize letters, but also write their name? Do we want them to write their name independently? So the research that I did says that writing is the most independent thing we ask kids to do. And within that skill set, we need to try to back off a little bit, and we need to use the technology to scaffold the learner. In what ways can we do that? How about text-to-speech? How about helping them hear what they're writing and teach them the tools? A talking spell check, wouldn't that be great? How about an app that would let us record what the teacher is saying by just maybe writing a keyword? And then when we go back and touch that word again, we get what's been said in the classroom. Those kinds of things, I think mobile devices are remarkable to help us with. In that sense, what we have is an opportunity to scaffold or support the most independent thing we ask kids to do. How far will a kid go with writing? You don't know. You don't know until you start to apply all of these practice apps and see where you can get. Are we all good with the stages? And then again, here we've put early writers, more mature writers, note takers, ways of expressing yourself in a sense without actually writing, things that you can make podcasts with, things like that. So we have recommendations that are sort of an alternate means of expression when it comes to, or multiple means of expression when it comes to a skill that's more independent like writing. And again, each of these will go straight out to the App Store. Before I leave the wiki, I will just say that there are a couple of other links here. This is how you reach me again. This one is, boy, we just got started, so if you have apps to recommend, please let us know. This one is strategies we're using for finding apps, and this one is under construction. It's going to be all about accessibility features in all the mobile devices, and my interpretation of how you can best apply them. Not just here's a list of all the features, because you could get that on any website. It's how best to adjust those features stage by stage by stage, and that's coming under construction. So if anybody has suggestions on any of that, send them in. Comments on where we are so far, questions on where we are so far. While I'm listening to those, I am going to switch devices and cross my fingers. Yes?
On your finding apps link, is there somewhere where you offer the criteria, the research-based criteria for selecting apps?
Well, that's what the bullet points were in each stage.
Okay.
What does the, cross your fingers. What does the research say we should be looking for? What about the learner, what should the learner be doing? And then underneath, how to pick out the features that match up to that. So those little bullets that I was just showing up there and I was talking about but not reading them, those are summaries of the research. There is a book that I wrote, and Cambium has it if you're interested in more of the details. And in fact, I think up on the website that I showed you, stagesassessment.com, might be my research document. Stages. Yeah.
One other really quick question.
Sure.
Is Cambium looking at doing any kind of a crosswalk to the new Common Core state standards?
That would be my job,
Okay.
to make sure that we're doing that. And I think it's time I write a paper about that, because it's really starting to happen, isn't it? And a year ago, I couldn't have even talked about that and had half the people in the room understood what I mean. So I think I need to maybe make an addendum to the book. Why reprint a good book with the research already in it if I can't just make a paper to add on to how to align all of that? So I'm sort of perking on that here at this conference. I'm hearing much more than I've heard even in the last 6 months about that alignment. So that's why side 2 of your paper is all about curriculum and not about really where we live in modifying it. So remember, stage 1 was all about behavior. And what we're trying to do now is figure out ways that we can understand how to use this device very purposefully. So get it? Next. This is slide to unlock R.J. Cooper. This is helping kids understand some of the gesture systems that he's going to need. So these are the different gestures that you can have the student practice. And how about just a quick slide to unlock? We are internet dependent on lots of these. So this is not my iPad desktop. This is the software. This is the app.
Great.
Nothing. I'm in the wrong spot.
Awesome.
Next. So I just have a few in here. There's drum playing. There's firework. I have to show you one more. I totally love Beatbot. Do you guys know Beatbot? Oh my God, he's just adorable. Cause and effect on an iPad. Are we good? Stage 2. Language development. This is why we went through the stages, so I can just give you categories and buckets and you can know where we are. I like apps that you can get some mileage out of, and this one is a nice one because it labels things based on which choice you make. It's toddler drums, sideways. So you can pick shapes, colors. I'm not going to try to mess with this or rotate it because something's going to get unplugged. So go like this. So you can play just drums, or you can play the drums and they'll say the names of shapes, or you can play the drums and they'll say the names of colors. Just label, label, label.
Red, blue, yellow, green, turquoise.
Turquoise. How's that for vocabulary? Right. And then emotions, names of, here's first words, probably one that lots of people know. Yay.
First words.
I'm upside down, you're not.
Words. Touch the things to hear the names.
Touch the things to hear their names.
Touch the objects to see and hear their names. Apple. Tractor. Train.
Label, label, label. Receptive vocabulary. Good? Next. Some that may not look very academic could really serve well for motivating language development. Anybody want to have a barbecue? Gonna make you hungry. So I could see using this one. Come on, load. I could see using this one in a clinical setting. We're going to light our fire. So we build on the gesture we learned at stage 1. Well, I'm not going to keep going. Along the wooden plank there, I don't know what's going on. Yay, maybe it lit this. No, it didn't. Along the wooden plank there, you get corn and hot dogs and burgers and buns, and you can make a little barbecue plate. And what's nice about it is you could just have conversations with kids around things they do at home, but you have a simulation of that for school. Real pictures. I think that's very important. And there's a hot dog making one too. Stage 3, now we are expressive, now we are choosing, now we are seeing with all that language work we've been doing, can they find things? So, or categorize things, for example. Let's see, what shall I pick? Let's name things. And you buy decks. I want to start a new game. I'm already built in there as a learner, so I'll say next. You can add all your kids. These are all the categories of vocabulary that you can check on and off based on the work that you've been doing with kids. Come on, you guys, this is a real opportunity waiting to happen, right? Things that live in the ocean.
Let's name things that live in the ocean. Let's name things that live in the ocean.
Let's name things that are hot.
Now, do you see the red button at the bottom and the green button at the bottom? This is for you to keep data. Things that have wheels. What are things that have wheels? Tell me something that has wheels.
Car.
Say it again.
Car.
A car, yes. Tell me something that has wheels. A bike, yes. Tell me something that has wheels. She can't do it.
Chicken.
Let's name things that have wheels.
So now I have score. One, right? I didn't exactly hit it. So at the end, we're going to get a menu. We're going to get our results. We can look back and see how many I got out of how many and keep your data that way. Good? Let's name things. Fun decks. And you buy different decks. Dexterio is one that was recommended by an OT who's in my graduate program. Do you know this one? I see your head going up and down. It lets you work on some of the more complicated gestures like tapping, pinching, those kinds of things that we want kids to be able to do. And then tracing with the dots and arrows for letters and numbers. And let's do one more. How about auditory discrimination? Let's try that one. Oh, I have to tell how many choices I want. 2 choices or 4 choices, sorry. Which picture is making that sound? Which picture is making that sound? So early auditory discrimination. And anybody who knows anything about phonemic awareness knows we just started early reading right there with sound discriminations. So this is where stage 3 segues over to stage 4. Yeah, right. Stage 4, let's see. I have a drawing one here. Oh, this is a sequencing one, which I really love. Because sequences have more attributes than just visual. Let's listen to this sequence. So I have to add the next 2 in. Visual and auditory sequencing and patterning. What's next? It's just called What's Next. Pocket phonics, lots of people love this one. This one's been around for a while. It was probably one of the early ones that we all got excited about. So we can just pick a letter to work on. I'll work on P for Pugliese.
Right.
And again, there are settings in each of these. Now, I've just gone from making the letter and saying the sound to having to put together a word. When I say a sound, touch it.
Try again.
You see what happened? This is what I want for a stage 4 learner. It didn't just say try again and leave me hanging. It took away the distractor that I chose.
Pat. Wonderful.
I'm wonderful. And there are settings, and I'm not showing you every feature because this is a really quick peek at lots of different apps that are deliberately chosen. Yes?
In the beginning, when you were making the sound, was it registering your voice?
It was not, but that's where I cannot stress enough that this is not an independently used toy. It is a deliberately and purposefully selected teaching tool. Don't let it become custodial care again. Don't take our field backwards just because they're engaging. Isn't this a wonderful way to use a one-to-one paraprofessional teaching assistant who is not just wiping tables? I think we so underutilize those extra pair of hands. And we all know that, go look on the exhibit floor, there are mounts. I just worked with a boy who had no hands. He had pincer grasp, artificial grasp on one side, and he had a hook on the other side. We put a regular Apple stylus in his hands for $9, and he was going to town. He had access to the curriculum for the first time ever on an iPad that was mounted in a stylus in his hand. So we can't forget the power of that. We can't forget that this is a significant intervention and a decision that we make, not just because it's less expensive. Stage 5? I can't resist. Have you seen it? Okay, here we go.
Place the specimen in the dissection pan upside out. Select the pins from the tools. Pin the limbs to the dissection pan to keep the rod in place.
Now, why am I choosing this one? Because guess what? Our Common Core standards say our kids are going to go through all of these curriculum areas. And how about the kid who doesn't have the arms to hold the scalpel? Is he left out of that activity, or do we simulate it? Here we are.
Use the marker to draw a horizontal line and a vertical line on the specimen. Select the scissors from tools.
If we didn't have that initial gesture, we wouldn't be able to do this. Yes, ma'am.
Another use of
Make a vertical incision on the line all the way up to the frog's chin.
dissecting animals.
Yes.
Make a horizontal incision.
Religious,
above the forelimbs.
not just motor. There's lots of reasons why kids...
Now make another horizontal incision.
I just want to
Raise it
peel back the
outward
first
slowly.
layer so you can see how great the graphics are.
Raise it outward slowly. Repeat the same for the other side. Select scissors from tools.
Now we're going to
Make a
keep
vertical
cutting
incision on the muscle
so
along
you
the
get it.
midline.
And there's pizza fractions, and there's spelling, and there's... I just got to show you this one. It's probably my favorite reading one. I want to go back to the beginning.
Millie, Molly, and the Bike Ride.
Millie and Molly have a whole
But
series.
we feel the same.
I think they're $5. So I can hear it.
It was the perfect day for a bike ride.
Reading modeling.
You can't be late, warned Millie's mother. Grandma has lunch at 12 o'clock.
But what's different about this one? I can
You mustn't
record
be late.
myself. Stop. I'm going to record myself reading this page so the teacher can come back and listen to me record me reading later on. Three, two, one. You mustn't be late, Molly, mother. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. You must be late, Molly, mother.
You must
$5.
wait, Molly, mother.
You go back and hear it later. It saves right in. You can color all the pages, so
We
forth.
won't be late, promised
So
Millie and Molly.
that's Millie and Molly, stage 5. So that's 2 at stage 5. Stage 6 is just so rich with great modeling activities. Going places, you probably all know that one. Come on, turn, yay. Remember, we want real photos. We want real community-connected video or graphic modeling for stage 6 kids. No more graphics that are drawings. We have to be community-connected for life skills and functional curriculum. So you guys get this one? I want to show you one I just found that is exactly opposite of what I just said, but every teenage girl I've used it with has lost her mind. Have you seen this one? Purple, of course. Pearls. Cover girl. Social skills, counting money, telling time, all the things you need. But why shouldn't we continue to work on vocabulary that's age appropriate and interesting? I just want to tell you about one. Anybody from, like, as old as I am, from the old days, remember
Welcome
Dr.
to Dr.
Pete's
Pete's
Talk
Writing
Writer?
Buddy.
Anybody remember that one? He's back. And this is a lovely, lovely app. If you remember Dr. Pete's Talk Writer, I'm sorry, I have to go back down again.
Back end.
Do you guys remember what you could put the phonetic spelling in for if the kid's going to write his name and it's Jose, it won't say Joe's, that kind of thing. In the settings, you can say what kind of reading it's going to give you back. It uses the text-to-speech right in the application, letter by letter, word by word. All of the things you would expect in an early talking writer are built into this app. It's just lovely. So when we get out of it, we can just start typing, we can email, we can send text, we can do so many different pieces with this, just this little talking writer. And that's the writing buddy, and if you know Dr. Pete, then you know that's exactly what he would have called it, right? And so there are a couple of other things in here, not just early writing, but predictable, word prediction. Karen, you're the one that turned me on to creative. Where are you?
She has a fly.
Oh, okay. All right, so, and Story Builder, Stories to Learn has built-in stories. It's good for social stories. It has already built-in stories that are made with photographs, but you can add your own with the camera and the iPad. So, like Wild Carpet Ride, Magic Carpet Ride, I told you to buckle your seatbelts. Thank you so much for spending your morning with me.